They finished making the iPhone like 8 years ago. It's been marginal upgrades. They go back and forth on changes. Rounded edge, sharp edge, rounded edge, sharp edge. Here's a feature that should have been in 6 years ago that Google did that we haven't done because we were waiting to sell it to you. It's like, and you sheep. God, the only way to appropriately and respectfully regard tech companies is to hate them with every fiber of your fucking being, okay? That's the only way. If you don't feel pure hatred to them and the sycophants who promote their products, then you're not. Then you're disgusting. You're barely even human, frankly. The consumption of these products is fallible. It's fallible human. We're weak. We're suffering. We're all crawling around in shit and piss. We're opening our mouth to scream, and the shit and the piss is pouring into our mouths. And every once in a while, we gurgle shit and piss and cum, and we buy an iPhone. But you're in the shit and piss vat. You understand? There's a better world out there, okay? The better world is the one where everyone recognizes that they pretty much perfected smartphone technology like a while ago, and the only reason they should ever release new ones is that they have a fucking reason to. But we can't live in that world. We can't live in that world. Hey, graphics cards, by the way, don't need to be as strong as they are. The only reason they're this strong is because it's a fucking rat race, crypto miners, and it's like, oh, dude, now that everyone is fucking 64 gigs of RAM, what if we just pre-bake every game engine now with a bunch of graphic hog processes that marginally improve the like, guys, go play Starfield. That game looks like fucking dog shit, but try running that in an old system. You know, I mean, maybe you can if you turn the settings down far enough. It's just they're literally pressing buttons in the back end. Like, what if we made this shit fucking take up more computer resources to play because we have, like, you know, a reputation we have to cultivate for being a high-end product. Nobody's gonna buy a PS5 unless all the fucking modern games look like PS5 games. Everything has to cost more. Fucking, I hate it here. I'm gurgling the piss and shit. We're all gurgling the piss and shit. Okay? Gamers have no idea how much optimization is not being done because of how powerful graphics cards keep getting. Yeah, literally, people make fun of game companies for doing this, where, like, now that everyone knows it's really cheap to get like a 20 billion terabyte hard drive, it's like, oh yeah, Western game dev moment, you know, 200 gigabyte game, you know? Why? Can you not possibly, I don't know, fucking, can we zip some of that shit up? Can we zip it down a little bit of compression, just a little bit? Do we really need like 4K textures on every grass blade? What are we doing here? You know, what are we doing? But they don't have to, because you know why? Because they're the ones shitting and pissing. They see you. Bethesda sees you swimming in the piss and shit, and they're firing off more fucking piss into it because they're adding to it. They don't care. They're not in the piss and shit. You're in the piss and shit. They don't care. They don't give a shit. They don't process. They fucking the optimization shit, like what Benjamin said. Like, there's a bunch of shit. How is it that some of these games run so fucking poorly on modern engines? Because they don't give a shit. And you know what? They're in bed with the people who make those graphics cards. You know, graphics cards manufacturers want to sell you new bullshit, and game companies want to have a good relationship with those graphics card companies because they kind of work in tandem to sell each other as the new cutting edge tech, which is why you get bundle deals and why you have graphics cards that release and benchmark themselves against new modern games. So that way they can promote those new modern games as being the fucking top of the line, super high end next thing you need to play, dog. Except they look like shit. They all look like shit. You know why? Because real artistic beauty comes from art style, not from graphical fidelity. As if they even have graphical fidelity. We had plenty of graphical fidelity in Bloodborne, didn't we? That game ran on 30 frames a second, and you could still take any screenshot from that game, that lower res game compared to modern PS5 games, and it would still look better than the vast majority of them because they had a good style and they knew how to use it. And still, we pour money into this rat race industry. You guys realize there is no end to it, right? They will invent. You will have liquid cooled fucking quantum computers capable of processing little universes, and somehow the graphics cards in those quantum computers will still not be adequate for the next line of games, which will look and play just like the old line of games, except, I don't know, maybe there's some new graphical feature you can turn on or off, and maybe you think it makes it look better, but you can't really tell. You can't really tell. You know, it looks about the same, but for some reason it takes up 60 times the computer resources that modern games that look the same do. Imagine like a syringe company that tried to sell... No, that's not a good example because syringes are disposable. Let me try to think of a technology that I have one. I'm sorry, my bad. What about speaker companies? How many technological advancements do you think have been made in speaker technology year by year over the past half century? Some, I'm not saying it's none. I know enough to know that some has been done, but yet multiple new versions of speakers come out every single year. Like, they aren't coming out with new speaker tech every 4 months, and yet somehow there are 50 brands and all of them have 50 lines, and there's something new and different every time. They're always selling you on something. Why? Why? What are they selling you on? Nothing. It's all bullshit. Benjamin with the $500 donation. Hey, it was money. Thank you very much for the incredibly kind donation. Seriously, obviously, you've heard it so many times, but I always mean it. Must begin atoning now for when I buy Vision Pro Day 1. On a real note, I disagree with some of your tech takes, but overall, you're right. There we go. I love being correct in, the broader sense. The tech space has some really amazing advancements, even for tech like iPhones, but is overshadowed by the need to sell a new phone annually instead of refine the features. Moore's Law ending will be good. Yeah, to be clear, I don't think literally nothing good happens with regards to like phones or tech or anything like that. The problem is whether or not anything has happened, the new model must come out and they will sell it to you as hard as they can on any old bullshit, And this also leads to like stuff like planned obsolescence, or they will deliberately withhold features because they're waiting for the next one. Like, they'll be like, oh yeah, we could put this in, but this would actually be like a good line to sell the next model on. So it's like, fuck it, Shit like that really bugs me, If there's anything that really does like perk me up with regards to technology, there is so much interesting stuff happening in like pure medical science that you can take a look at and go like, God damn, Because technological breakthroughs are happening faster now than they ever have, by a pretty big margin too, There's just more smart people and there's more money for them to use and there's more tech to build on and there's more the apparatus for developing new stuff, or apparatuses, I guess, are just growing and growing and growing. So as a consequence of that, like you look in the medical science fields, it's like, this stuff takes time, especially because of human trials and all that crap, but oh my God, And sometimes we really do fail to appreciate how far we've come, even in the short time that we've been doing this stuff. Like, the development in cell phone and computer technology over the past 2 decades has been the most unbelievable, like, paradigm shift in technology available to everyone. And what's nice is, because these forms of communication are media and communication based, it's actually in everyone's interest, even the bourgeoisie, for basically everyone to have them. So computers and phones and television and all that crap have been developed in such a way that we understand them to be effectively utilities rather than luxuries. Sometimes people argue on this, but at this point, I think you could fairly argue a smartphone is essentially a utility item. Like, it's not a luxury. You basically need one to exist today. And for that reason, like, we're seeing the dream of the Industrial Revolution realized, an incredible piece of technology made relatively cheap and available. Yeah, I'm not saying it's like actually cheap, but like, come on, man, it's a smartphone. That shit's crazy. To like everyone. Like, there are people living in the Philippines who don't have running sewage to their house who have a smartphone. It's like everywhere, And once you have one, the only thing you need is to not drop it and keep it charged, and electricity is almost universally available. So that's really cool. I'm not down on tech, It's just the way it's marketed when they need to keep the market running is the thing. And somebody in YouTube chat is saying I have an iPhone 16, and that is not true. It's a 14, okay? I had an 11 for a long while, and it was really slow. Like, it was loading emails and Twitter DMs really slow. So I went to the store and I got a new one, and this was shiny, and I got it. And it wasn't even the most expensive one I could have bought, okay? It's got a normal camera. It doesn't even have that like super fancy 4-cam camera or whatever. Sake with the 521 subs. Bottom line, Vaush right on tech, Benjamin wrong. Vaush and Benjamin also poor, cry harder. Oh no, please, you two Oilers, please don't argue with each other in my subscription / donation feed. That would be no. Get along.